Well, good evening. I want to give everybody a warm welcome tonight. Friends and guests, we appreciate you joining us. Today, July 24th, happens to be International Self-Care Day. So we are going to learn how to better take care of ourselves. That way we can have a healthy life and we are going to feel good enough to make a difference in the lives of others. So excited you can be here tonight. We have our favorite anti-aging physician with us, Dr. Deborah Viglione, and she's absolutely amazing. She goes about making the world a better place every day. Her heart is just to help the whole world. So I'm going to give you a little bit of her background tonight. So she is a board certified doctor of internal medicine with the American Board of Internal Medicine. She's also board certified in anti-aging and regenerative medicine. She has an integrative internal medicine practice in Gulf Breeze, Florida. And she has over 30 years experience in internal medicine. And the last 20 years, her experience has been in integrative, functional, and anti-aging medicine. So she's a real authority on health, and she actually lives what she teaches. So we love that. So with that, Dr. Viglione, I'm going to turn the time over to you.
Thank you. She just went through that, but at the bottom there you can see, and I'm going to put this at the end, you can reach me at contact@deborahviglione.com or call the office. I also have a couple Facebook pages. I have a personal one. There's just my name, and then I have a Living Waters business page that you can find me. And then this is what I really want to emphasize, because this is where I'm putting the videos, the ones that I've done in the past. Like I spent a whole year with Rita Townsend. We made them in 2020, and I made some before that to help educate my patients on various subjects. But that's how you can find me, is click on that. That'll take you to my channel, and then if you hit subscribe, that'll help me get more exposure, but it's also going to notify you then when I do post a video. Okay, so if we're going to talk about self-care, one of the things we can't ignore is our mental health. So I'm actually going to start with that, which may surprise you because that's not really my area of specialty, but you can't have good overall health and longevity if you don't address that. And this weekend, I was privileged to have my sister-in-law, Lenore Doster, who's a PsyD, who spent her life on this, and just recently published a book, which I'm going to show you a copy of it. And we were talking a good deal about this and mental health, and particularly paving the way with a plan for the future. So this is like a little poem that she put together with the acronym RENEWAL. But ready, Lord, to put off my old ways and fix my eyes on what is better, to turn away from the environment that weighed me down and broke me, to walk with new habits that will build me up, to let everlasting experiences and excellent character rest on my shoulders, to allow my wisdom to win and shield me from further harm, to let others equip me and hold me accountable, to reach out in acts of love towards others and myself. So I thought that was really cool because it gives you kind of a strategic plan of how you're going to prepare for the future. And I'm one of the worst. My ADD, last thing I want to do is sit down and put in writing a plan. But any personal development, anybody who's teaching leadership will tell you, whether it's your business plan or your personal plan or plan of being a parent, you need to have a plan and you need to set goals and strategic steps along the way. So in her renewal, and this is a really small book, I would encourage people to get it. I think it's available on Amazon. It's a little teeny, you can read it in a sitting if you wanted to. And then she's going to have a workbook coming out. But you've got to be ready for change. And that's the biggest thing I see when I'm dealing with obesity or cigarette smoking or alcohol addiction. People aren't ready for change. You're not going to be able to make a change if you're doing it reluctantly or somebody's dragging you through it. You have to want to do it. So that's the first step. Then you have to evaluate your environment, because if you're an alcoholic or you're drinking too much and you want to get rid of that, you don't go to bars and you can't hang out with friends that are doing that. You've got to make a new set of friends. In my case, I'm facing a big change in my life. I'm facing empty nest, and my son's leaving, and I'll have my stepson here, but then I'm empty nest. And, my whole life, it seems like, has been focused on my children and my career. So I'm looking at, okay, how do I change my environment? What things do I need to do? The last thing I need to do is sit here at home and mope. So I'm looking at changes to my business, joining a Bible study on Tuesday nights, looking into probably learning to play pickleball and getting a new group there. So I need to find new friends, new things to do, and change my environment. And then you have to develop new habits. And there's plenty of books out there, and I think her workbook will go into that more about how you actually change old habits. And you have to do things really diligently and intentionally for a habit to develop. And I think it's about 6 months in general for something to become habitual with you and to get rid of the old habits. And then you want to embrace what's good in your life and the people that are good, and develop that and have mentors that help you develop the characteristics you want to. Of course, wisdom, and you have to have an accountability partner to make sure you're going to do what you say you're going to do. And then last, I love this, is reaching out and helping others. Love yourselves and your community. One of the things that John Maxwell talks about is leading a life of significance versus a life of success. Now, those two can go hand in hand, but you can't take your money with you when you die. So, what did you do something lasting? Did you do something that made a difference in other people's lives in our world? And, I choose to try to live a life of significance. So this is her book. She calls it The Instructable Seven, and it is skinny. So I would recommend that. And she's got a workbook coming out sooner. If you really want to look at personal development, it's a good way to start. So you're structured. So now getting into the physics, the basics are restorative sleep. And that sounds so simple and so minor, but it's huge. One of my daughters was a lifelong insomniac, and I really didn't know how to help her as a child. And then I hit menopause and a divorce, and then the stresses of work, and suddenly sleep has become a real problem. And you don't sleep well, you're not going to function well, you're not going to be very nice. It's super important, probably number one, in making sure you function well. And then you've got the moderate exercise. Too much exercise will actually increase your stress on your adrenals, your oxidative stress, your free radical burden. But a lot of people don't think about the different elements of fitness. Strength is one, and this becomes so important as you get older. My father, who's 92, I can't remember exactly when he stopped going to the Y, but the frailty that ensued after he stopped working out caused him to break both of his hips. He looks like a paraplegic. He has no muscles. And it just struck me, I don't care how much you hate to lift weights, you need to lift weights. It's particularly starting in your 40s. Flexibility is another thing. Stretching, making sure you have the range of motion that you used to. You see so many older people hunched over, the necks are bent. They're not increasing their flexibility. Cardio is obvious, people get that, but balance is absolutely huge. And the older you get, the more off your balance is if you're not working on it. That has to be strategic in your fitness program. Then next is stress reduction, relaxing activities. That needs to be purposeful and intentional. I'm very, very bad at that, and I think a lot of us are. We go on vacation and we make it so full of activities that you come back more stressed and more tired than what you left to do. And I'm the worst at this, but there should be part of every day, or at least several days a week, where you deliberately do something that's relaxing. Oh, one of the things I did do is I picked up the violin. And that is relaxing to me, even though it sounds terrible and I sound like a crying cat, but it is relaxing, but probably not to those around me that are listening to me practice. Sex, we're going to get into the next slide. But sunshine and fresh, clean air. And during the pandemic, it was horrible. They told people to go inside. They isolated people. You're not breathing free, fresh, clean air. And guess what? You're not getting outside. You're not getting your vitamin D. You're not getting the sunshine. That is super important. And I know it's harder for those of us, or those of you that live in the northern states in the winter, but you got to get out. And we want to eat healthy and organic foods. I'm going to talk about that more. Personal development, that's kind of what I hit on. There's so many good books out there. And then also, studies have been done. When you exercise your spirituality and you have a faith, you are far better adjusted in life. Okay, so this was interesting. I decided today I had extra time to go actually look up the benefits of sex because I've seen them in various journals and articles, but actually helps lower your blood pressure, improves your immune system, and they think that there's probably a lower risk of heart disease from what they've seen statistically. Your self-esteem is better, definitely less depression, anxiety, increased libido. It's like the more you do it, the more you want it. And you actually have pain relief, and that's from the endorphins and the hormones that are released at climax. Much better sleep. And the Cosmopolitan did a study where they had couples agree to have sex every day for a month, whether they wanted to or not, and they had a questionnaire before and after, and there was much increased intimacy and closeness to the partner, and that can help resolve a lot of marital problems if you're close together physically. So overall, it's a good stress reduction. All right, so what I do is I'm anti-aging, holistic medicine, but we also, a common word now for it is functional medicine. And these are the 5 R's that they teach. You remove, replace, reinoculate, repair, and rebalance. And we're going to hit remove, replace, and repair predominantly. Rebalance is just putting it all together and making sure that your life is balanced and all these areas are balanced. So first thing I'm going to do is remove the bad things. Sugar and high fructose corn are number 1. Processed foods. Now those are foods that are changed from its natural state. So actually canned food is considered processed. So the more you can get foods in their fresh form and lightly cook them at home, the better off you're going to be. Canned meats and lunch meat, those are some of the worst. And a lot of those have nitrates in it, and if you look closely, they'll have high fructose corn syrup included as well. You want to minimize the amount of pesticide exposure you have, particularly Roundup. We'll go into that a little bit. Your toxins, chemicals, heavy metals, and mycotoxins, those are molds, and they are huge in our environment. And literally, when you have too much mold in your body, it mimics every disease process there is, whether it's Lyme, heart disease, fibromyalgia. I mean, everything in your body goes wrong. And that is what I'm calling kind of the hidden underneath cause for a lot of diseases. It's that not very many people are looking for, and it's really a hidden epidemic. If at all possible, when you get healthier, you want to eliminate the pharmaceuticals, the things that are unnatural to your body. You've got to eliminate bad bacteria in this process, and spike protein now is a new toxin that's entered our environment. Parasites and fungus. So those are the kind of things you want to be thinking about when you're doing your health plan. What do I do? How do I address each one of these things? So sugar and high fructose corn syrup. White blood cells, the way they operate is phagocytic, means they gobble up the bad bacteria, the toxin, the fungus, whatever it is, they go after, they gobble it up, then they basically kill it with hydrogen peroxide. And they've studied that high glucose levels in the blood inhibit their ability to do that, and also their ability to bind to surfaces so that they can do their job. That is what they think is the reason that diabetics have a reduced ability to fight infection. I was talking to a patient today who was out at one of our beaches in the water without her shoes on, and about 3 weeks later she comes down with a very rapidly spreading infection. They thought she had flesh-eating bacteria. They took a x-ray, and there was a piece of shell that was actually in her foot that she didn't know was in there. And she said, how could that happen that bad? And I said, my own husband, he was out, and he has diabetes, he keeps it controlled, but he was out mowing or something and got a little cut, and within hours he had a high fever and was getting septic. They just can't fight infection like normal people can. So, and if you eat excess sugar, like if your diet's full of sugar, that's going to increase your risk of getting diabetes. You'll actually make more fat, and you'll fill your liver up with fat and cause fatty liver, and that is one of the epidemics that's happening now. Now, there's 3 types of sugar, but fructose intake is causing a great deal of problems because of the way it's metabolized. When you take a molecule of glucose, the body uses it immediately for energy. It doesn't have to be metabolized. It can go into the cell and it can go to work. The bad side of glucose is it does make you release insulin. And if you are doing too much of it, you're going to have way too much insulin. You become insulin resistant and you become diabetic that way. However, fructose doesn't work that way. It doesn't immediately increase the blood sugar. It has to be metabolized, and the only organs that can do that are liver, kidney, intestine, fat, and muscle. And they do it independent of insulin. But in the process of that, you get bad lipids. You get hypercholesterolemia, you get hypertriglyceridemia, hyperuricemia, which causes gout, and high degree of fatty liver and increased visceral fat. That's the fat that surrounds your organs that is so bad for you. Now, sucrose is table sugar. That's 50% glucose, 50% fructose. Dextrose is very similar to glucose, and that's one thing that we use in IVs, and it's used the same, the body uses it the same as glucose. So corn syrup and glyphosate are very related because corn and soy crops are heavily sprayed with glyphosate, which is Roundup. And so if you're not getting organic forms of anything soy or corn, you're going to have Roundup in there. And the problem with that is Roundup is water soluble, so it's getting into our soil, and they said it was biodegradable, but they're realizing now, no, it's taking much longer to get out of the soil, and it's contaminating our grains, fruits, and vegetables. Now it's in groundwater, lakes, rivers, oceans, and air, and even some of the organic products will have trace amounts of glyphosate in it because of the groundwater. So these are some high fructose foods. There's charts on it. Sorry, it's a little bit blurry when I threw it up, but most fruit juices will have that high fructose levels. There's ketchup in there in the middle, and you can look at for there's images all over the internet. Honey is one of the bad ones. And then the low fructose foods are here, surprisingly, because it doesn't necessarily correlate with a high glycemic index. Again, because fructose doesn't raise the blood sugar the same way as glucose does. Now, I had to stick this in there. Gatorade versus Powerade. So Gatorade is made of sucrose and dextrose. Powerade is high fructose corn syrup. The electrolytes are very similar. And Powerade adds, they make a big deal out of, they add some vitamins. It's less than 1%. It's no big deal. Now, Gatorade originally started by a company who was trying to hydrate the athletes at the University of Florida, the Gators. Then it was bought out by Quaker Oats, and lastly bought out by Pepsi-Cola. And Powerade was developed by Coca-Cola from the get-go. Well, Coca-Cola has been a high fructose corn syrup company from pretty much the beginning. So, which would you pick? I've always told people, do Gatorade. It makes sense. It's going to get the energy to the cells immediately, and you're not going to hurt your body and get fatty liver and diabetes from drinking Powerade. Sorry, Coca-Cola. So then you look at their soft drinks. Carbonated water, high fructose corn syrup. Now there is I think it's called Coca-Cola Light. It's in a green bottle where they have used, I think, cane sugar. You can't find it anywhere. And then I went back and looked, and when Coke was first launched, the chief ingredients were cocaine and caffeine. So I think they have an agenda to get you addicted to their product. Oh, and the high fructose corn syrup is very addicting because it's so sweet that people crave it. So then you look at, here's just an example of the foods you'll find it in, but just look at a hot dog pack or, or bacon or something like that. You'll almost always find high fructose corn syrup in trace amounts. And that's why they think that slowly over time, the incidence of diabetes has risen so badly because we're being inundated with it in small amounts. So they thought that Roundup wouldn't be toxic to us as animals because the way it kills plants is plants have this enzyme that makes it, they can't break it down, it's toxic. Well, we don't have that, but they're realizing now that it's accumulating, it's getting in our food chain, and we're getting toxic levels in our body, and it's a very long half-life. So it's like 15 years or more. But what it's doing is altering our microbiome, our gut bacteria, which then affects our immune system, makes us vulnerable to viral diseases, and it's actually causing neurodegenerative diseases. It's causing some of the endocrine problems, delayed puberty, early puberty, just all kinds of problems. And it's also a carcinogen. There's some debate on that, but most authorities are believing now that it is carcinogen. Now this shows you the gut lining. The one on the left is normal. You can see all of the green lines connect. Well, within 16 minutes of having something with glyphosate in it, you can see that those tight junctions have blown apart. Well, that's how toxins, food particles get into your bloodstream. You start having food allergies, autoimmune disease, because it's destroying our gut. Okay, so the next part in getting well is to remove. So we've got to get these things out of our body. So we're moving them from our environment, but then how do we get them out? So there's a pathway in our body called NRF2, which I have other videos where I've discussed that in detail. But that pathway is our primary way that we detox. It increases our glutathione, which is the master antioxidant and detoxifier, and it elevates other enzymes that are responsible for removing toxins and heavy metals. So that needs to be part of your program. You want to activate that pathway to get these things out. Chelation, it literally means the claw, but it's using a drug or a natural substance to bind with the toxin. So, you get it out, you get it in the bloodstream, you bind it up, and then you can eliminate it from the body. And some of the drugs that I use in my practice are EDTA, that binds lead, cadmium. Those are the predominant ones. DMPS binds mercury and arsenic. Now, some of the natural ones, bentonite clay, diatomaceous earth powder, apopectin, zeolite, activated charcoal, those bind various toxins. They also bind mycotoxins, so they're very good. Cholestyramine is actually a drug that was used to lower cholesterol, but it binds medications, it binds mold very well, and probably binds other toxins. That's not an exhaustive list, but when you go on a detox, say you want to take a week and you want to actively detox, you're going to want to get a product that has something like that in it. Cleansing and fasting is a good way to detox because that's increasing autophagy, which I'm going to go into on the next slide. And then I'm a big proponent on the methylation pathways. I've got a couple videos that I did in 2018 on the methylation pathway. There's an intro and then there's another one. Explains it. It's a pretty complicated pathway, but you have to methylate well to be able to remove toxins from your body. And that can be supported with methyl B12, methylated folate, B6, and choline. So even if you don't know your methylation genes, if you plan to detox and want to stay healthy, you should be on a methylated B vitamin. So autophagy is the process where the body's breaking down and destroying old and damaged and abnormal proteins in the cell and other substances that accumulate in the cell that don't belong there. And this is what it looks like. You have the junk, and the junk is those little dots there, and you see what they call a phagosome. That's just exactly what white cells do, but this is inside your cell. It will gobble them up, it'll surround it, then it's going to fuse with something called a lysosome, which has enzymes in it to dissolve or break down or just eliminate whatever that substance is, and then any ingredients that are worth saving are recycled and the process starts again. So that's how the cells get rid of old organelles that aren't working anymore, maybe mitochondria that aren't damaged and aren't working. And one of the biggest things that's going on since COVID is we're finding that the spike protein, whether you've had COVID or had the shot, the spike protein gets into cells and it basically turns that process called autophagy off, and then the cell becomes what they call a zombie or a senescent cell. And as those accumulate, it causes the body to age rapidly and can lead to cancer. Those cells are horrible. You have to get rid of them. Normally, the body would kill them off. They'd recognize them as bad cells and they'd kill them off. But there's something about that spike protein that's telling these cells to tell the body not to kill it. To top it off, to make it even worse, we found that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines were loaded with bacterial DNA that was designed to replicate spike protein. Well, bacteria are transferred from person to person, and so unless you lived in isolation somewhere in the North Pole, all of us probably have bacteria in our intestines that are producing spike protein and are causing us to have senescent cells. So part of your program needs to be deliberately going after that spike protein, but that's another lecture all in itself. Okay, so then once you've started removing these things, you've got to replace with good things. So purified water, I can't emphasize that more. You know, we're 60 to 70% water. You don't need to be doing any water that's not filtered. You want to replace with healthy, whole, nutrient-dense foods. You want to have the healthy, complex carbohydrates, not the simple sugars, healthy protein sources, healthy fats, and you basically want to eat the rainbow. The food pyramid that we all grew up with is wrong. It's stressing way too much carbohydrates at the beginning, and lots of cereals and grains. We're not designed to eat that much, and it really didn't emphasize fats at all. But healthy fats are very important, and we're seeing an epidemic of dementia and Alzheimer's, and a lot of it's due to the fact that that generation didn't get the healthy fats that you need to develop and maintain your nervous system. Then you want to replace the missing vitamins and minerals, and there are blood tests that you can do to see what your status is, but I can tell you you're deficient in vitamin D 99%, because optimal levels are 80 to 100, and most people I check that aren't replacing are below 30. 30 is listed as the lower limits of normal, but that's not optimal. So you're going to have to replace D3 even if you're in the sun. You want to put in good bacteria in your microbiome, and that's probiotics, prebiotics, and postbiotics. And the new thing is tributyrin. The probiotics obviously are the good bacteria. Prebiotics are what feed the good bacteria. And postbiotics are what the colon would normally make. But if the colon's injured and it's not functioning well, you can add that, and that will help. And I'll talk about that in a little bit, about what that does. You want to replace hormones. This becomes more important as you're aging. And collagen. We'll get into that. So then you want to repair. So it's time to activate your God-given genetic pathways. You're not going to repair if you don't get those pathways running. And you want to activate the NRF1 pathway, which makes more mitochondria, because your mitochondria get damaged by free radicals over time with aging. It's why little kids run around and they have so much energy and we can't keep up with them. And you see older people slow down, like that Energizer bunny that's running out of his batteries. You want to activate that NRF2 pathway so that you can detoxify. You want to activate sirtuin-1. The sirtuin genes are longevity genes, and there's several of them, but the sirtuin-1 is probably the most important and the most studied. That does all kinds of good things to help with longevity, including reducing your risk of cancer and diabetes. And you do that by making more NAD. So then you need the building blocks. Everybody needs to take collagen, and if you're an athlete or you're doing much exercise, you need to add the branched chain amino acids, extra protein, and then you want to do nutrient cofactors that help run these pathways. Minerals, just about everybody's deficient in minerals. You really need to be actively doing that unless you eat a lot of grains, and everybody needs the B vitamins. So I wanted to get in a little bit in the skin. The skin is the largest organ in the body. And hair is, obviously, you want to look nice because that's part of your appearance. But the skin, we're probably more abusive to our skin than anything else. We've got to remove toxic products. And there's an app that you can put on your phone called the Think Dirty app, and you download it, and you can put your product in there, and it has most products in there, and they'll give you a rating. 1 and 2 is where you want to be, because 1, you could literally drink it and it wouldn't hurt you. But most products are like an 8 to 10. They're horrible, and you're putting it on your skin. Now, you may not absorb all of it, but some of the skin is going to absorb it, and that is just not good. And then it can get into your body. And you want to also protect your hair and your skin from too much oxidative stress and DNA damage from ultraviolet rays. And I'm horrible. I live in Florida. I love the sun, but I'm starting to see the cumulative stress that it's doing on my skin. So I bought a new laser that I'm going to use on my whole body to get rid of it. And then you want to replenish your skin with nutrients and hydrating emollients. So you really need to look at labels and probably reviews on products, but you also need to rebuild with collagen. So collagen, there have been 28 different types that have been identified in the human body, and it makes up 30% of the body's protein. It is the most abundant protein. It's providing structure or support and strength to your bones and your muscles, your your artery and veins, and connective tissues. And really the arteries are considered connective tissue, your ligaments, your tendons. So without collagen, you don't support your joints. and you won't make bone, and that's where some of the osteoporosis comes as you get older. So there's these 5 are the main types that we're looking at. Type 1 is 90% of it. It's densely packed, and that is your skin, bones, tendons, and ligaments. So if you do nothing else, you want to get type 1 in your body. Type 2 is found more in the elastic cartilage, and it helps provide bone or joint support. So you'll often see in joint products that they have type 2 collagen in them. Type 3 is your muscles, arteries, and organs. 4 is in some of the layers of your skin. 5 is your eyes, some of the skin and tissue of the placenta. And collagen is what they call a triple helix structure, and you can kind of see it in 3D and 2D there on the slide. So this one on the left is somebody that was treated with a machine I have that's microneedling. Now when you're 20, you basically start making collagen. You may make a little bit, but it exponentially declines as you get older, and you really don't make collagen unless you damage it. You know, you damage your knee, you know, you don't make really much collagen. That's why we get arthritis, we tear our meniscus. So this lady on the left was treated with RF microneedling, which is sticking needles in the skin, and it destroys the collagen so the body can then come in and replace it. However, as you get older, if you're not taking collagen and you're doing these skin procedures, you're wasting your money because you're not going to be able to replace it well. The one on the right is actually somebody that I treated. Extensive sun damage, but she had 2 treatments with RF microneedling. So you can see she was 71. So even at 71, you can do a significant amount to reverse the signs of aging. Now, when you look for a collagen product, you want to get a hydrolyzed collagen peptide, because at one time collagens out, they weren't absorbed. When they began to hydrolyze it and make it in a peptide form, it was now absorbable. You want to look for one, ideally with 5 types, but 1 and 3 at minimum, 1, 2, and 3. Liquid is better than powder. It's absorbed. I know a lot of people like to take the powdered and stick it in their coffee, and I'm not going to tell you not to do that, but liquid is better. And a marine source is best if you can assure that it is non-toxic and doesn't have mercury, because mercury is one of the biggest contaminants of anything marine. So my favorite is an industry first and only, and we can talk about that at the end, but it contains fish collagen peptides, and it's types 1 through 10, also has amino acids. It's made from ruby quinoa extract. It's a proprietary citrus and berry blend. It tastes really good. It's an appleberry flavor, and it's just basically a little shot of liquid collagen every day. And what they found out with the red quinoa, it's actually activating our genes, and that's why I say it is the only product out there that does, or at least is studied, that they do gene activation. So it's increasing superoxide dismutase, which is one of the main antioxidants that our body makes to knock out superoxide, which is a free radical. So it increases that 27 times, and this is in the body, not just the skin. It upregulates genes, those genes that you see there, I'm not going to talk about them, but those are genes that are responsible for skin strength and resilience, and it's doing that in the skin. And it upregulates the gene to make type 1 collagen by 43%. That's what excites me the most, because I believe it will help with increasing your bone density. It'll help your ligaments, your joints, as well as your skin. That I think it's really going to help reverse the signs of aging. And this is even bigger maybe, is it's down-regulating the main gene that breaks collagen down, and that would include your bone. So the results with this product, they showed that it increased collagen density by 42%. This is just in 2 months. Catalase is another enzyme that knocks out the free radical hydrogen peroxide. It increased that by 202%. Superoxide dismutase by 2,700%. The skin moisture was increased by 18%, brightness by 5%, smoothness by 10%, and the depths of the crow's feet decreased by 22%, and that's without Botox. And it improved the appearance of spots and pores by 10%. I mean, these are phenomenal. I'm going to show you a few pictures. So that's somebody's abdomen, and that's just in 20 days. And this is somebody's eye. This is remarkable. I mean, a lot of my things that I do in my clinic don't achieve these kind of results. And this is him from the side. And this is somebody's leg. So, that's a basic overview of how to take care of yourself, the different areas that you need to hit. And I've heard it, you know, God first, spouse second, family third, and then maybe career. Anyway, self is like a distant fifth or lower. And I'm like, no, that is wrong, because you are no good to yourself or anyone, your spouse, if you don't take care of yourself first. So God first, you second. Take care of yourself so that you can help others around you. So this is me. You can follow me on Facebook, and I'm also on Instagram. I'm not as active there as I am on Facebook. YouTube, please subscribe to my channel, and then you can email me at contact@deborahviglione.com or call the office. So I thank you for attending.